Hey everyone, David here, back again to review yet another figure from that Arkham City 4-pack that I bought a while ago. The reason why I have been doing an awful lot of figure reviews is because I've been trying to catch up with the new job that I have. There's been a couple of movies that have been released and I've reviewed, and I've been catching up on some video games that I've had backlogged, as they say, and trying to review those as well. But mainly TV. There's been an awful lot of shows that I've been also trying to catch up on, and some of them I've been reviewing here on this channel. But being that we got Arkham Knight coming out and we got some figures coming from DC Collectible to coincide with the release of that video game, I figured I would go ahead and catch up on this 4-pack and finish it off before those Arkham Knight figures get released. So here I am to review Arkham City Nightwing. Now what's kind of cool is that Nightwing didn't even have to exist. It's kind of neat that DC Direct went out of their way to make a Nightwing figure, considering that he wasn't even in the main story. He was a playable character in the challenge maps, and he didn't even make a cameo like Robin did in the main story. So I think that's kind of cool. You could consider it a cash grab, but hey, if you can at least make a decent figure out of the character, even if you simply just want a playable character in the challenge maps, then by all means go right on ahead. And I feel like DC Collectible did in fact do that. I'm not necessarily blown away from the figure, but he's a very nice addition to my collection. So here we have the figure. He is approximately, yes, that is a ruler. I hardly use the rulers, but I'm gonna try my best to use them much more often from here on out when it comes to height comparison. But he is just a little over 6.5 inches tall, so he's taller than the average 6-inch DC Direct figure or DC Collectible figure. But these figures are meant to be to scale. So, say for example, Penguin, he's going to be around 4, maybe 4.5 inches because the character is short. And Nightwing, he looks pretty cool. His costume design, like Nightwing from various previous incarnations, from the animated series to even various other forms of the character. His costume is very simplistic. It's mainly black with a blue stripe at the top, resembling a sort of bird or sort of bird-like embroiderment going on there at the top. But still, I think that the type of paint that they went with and the way that the details are etched into his costume is very nice. I know those are tiny little details, but it matters when it comes to a figure. Not only the shade of black, but also the texture of paint that they use. I think it looks rather cool, especially in person. And I've always been a fan of this blue stripe. I think it clashes really well with the black. But overall, the design of the character is still pretty cool. I like that his hair is a little bit longer because Nightwing has always had longer hair. And overall, he looks pretty nice. Now, for articulation, he's pretty basic, much like with the other figures in not only the Arkham City, but also Arkham Asylum 4-pack. His head rotates 360 degrees, like so. His arm rotates outwards about that far because his shoulder's rather bulky, so it kind of hinders at about that point right there. But it does rotate vertically 360 degrees. He has an upper bicep swivel that allows his arm to rotate 360 degrees. However, the design of the costume kind of breaks apart right there because it is still a figure. It bends at the elbow about that far, and he does have a swivel here in the wrist to be able to rotate 360 degrees as well. No waist articulation yet again, so that's sadly a little bit of a disappointment. There are ball joints here at the top of the legs, which is kind of neat because you can actually rotate his leg outwards about that far, and you can also rotate it outwards to the side about that far as well. The only downside is that his ass is molded like that, so you can't rotate the legs backwards at all. He bends at the knee about that far, nothing much, but it is something, and it's also a little bit of a ratcheted joint, about that much. And he does have an upper shin swivel right about there, so you can rotate the bottom portion of his leg. Unfortunately, no ankle movement, so that's sadly a bit of a bummer, and it does somewhat limit his posability. Now, Nightwing does come with 2 accessories, or 1 accessory, considering it's like the same thing just twice because it's part of the set. You can't have one without the other, and those are his 2 batons here, which, you know, they're pretty simple in their design as well. There's not much to them, but still they're essential to the character because Nightwing has always used batons. And they do fit into his hands. His hands are molded. Whoa, watch out. His hands are molded to hold the batons, but it's a little difficult to get them in there because the edges of the baton are molded in a way where they're thicker than the inward part. This part right here is a little bit thinner than the edges of the baton. These are a little bit thicker. So you can't simply just fit it in to his hand like this. You can't slide it in like that. It's a little tough. Well, I guess you can kind of do it on this hand. Yeah, okay, you can do it a little bit on this hand because it's a little bit more open. It's molded to be a little bit more open than the other one, which is a little bit more challenging because of the way his thumb is molded there on the top. So it's very difficult to get it in there. In fact, you can't. So what you have to do is simply just kind of press up on the fingers and try not to break it and pop it in, and there you go. And he looks really cool with his batons. I mean, he looks very dynamic. I mean, sure, you can't really pose him all that well because of the limitations in his legs, but still, he looks pretty badass. Now, if you don't want to pose him with the batons in his hands, you could put them here in the back. He does have these little clips here where you can clip in the batons. I'm not going to do it for time's sake, but you can clip them in. Just be careful because they are a little bit tight, and because of how thin this part of the baton is, you do have a slight risk of breaking it, so just be careful. Push it in really slowly and it'll clip into place, and you can pose them with his batons here on the back. Just be careful because it can be really easy to break them. Beyond that, there's not much to the actual figure itself except for the fact that he looks pretty cool, and we got a figure of Nightwing to complete our collection when we really didn't need any. Now, granted, I would have blatantly skipped out on the figure if it wasn't for the 4-pack because I mainly wanted the Arkham City Batman, but still, I don't regret having this guy in my collection. So for that, I give Nightwing a solid 7 out of 10. It's still a very appreciative figure and a really nice gesture on DC Collectibles' part, but you know, I wouldn't have cried in bed if we didn't get a Nightwing figure, at least me personally. So thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you guys thought of Nightwing. If you did get him, and if you didn't, would you be willing to get him with the Arkham City 4-pack? And are you guys excited for Arkham Knight? I'll see you guys next time. Take care.